I don't know what I was expecting when I opened Instagram that night. Maybe a few memes, maybe some updates from friends. Definitely not my pregnant wife, Naomi, holding hands with some dude I'd never seen before. And the caption? Our little miracle is almost here. Can't wait to meet our son, Elliot Jr. Elliot Jr. Who the hell is Elliot? I just sat there staring at my phone, rereading the caption like the words would somehow change if I focused hard enough. But nope, same gut punch every time. Naomi, my wife of 6 years, was proudly announcing to the world that her unborn child, the child I was preparing to raise, wasn't even mine. And she hadn't even bothered to tell me first. I felt numb. No anger yet. No sadness. Just this cold, creeping realization that my whole life had just detonated in front of an audience of 300 Instagram followers. I checked the comments. Her friends were going crazy, dropping heart emojis and "so happy for you guys." Messages like this was the best thing ever. My own sister had even commented "can't wait to meet him." Like she'd known about this for weeks. I still didn't move. My hands felt disconnected from my body, hovering over my phone like they weren't sure what to do next. Should I call her? Should I text? Then my phone started buzzing. Naomi. Calling me. Finally. I didn't answer. The phone kept buzzing, Naomi's name lighting up my screen over and over. I just stared at it, letting it ring out every time. If she wanted to talk, she should have done it before blasting our private business all over the internet. Then came the texts. Naomi, babe, please pick up. I can explain. Naomi, it's not what you think. Call me, please. Naomi, I'm coming home. We need to talk. I wasn't ready to deal with her yet, but I needed answers. So I did the only thing that made sense. I went through our bank statements. See, Naomi wasn't great with money. I handled all the finances, set up her doctor's appointments, made sure she had everything she needed for the pregnancy. I had been paying for everything, while she was out there playing house with Elliot. Sure enough, I found charges I didn't recognize. Dinners at fancy restaurants I'd never been to. Hotel stays. A jewelry store purchase for nearly $1,200. And the worst part? Some of these charges lined up with nights she told me she was too tired to go out with me. I felt something snap inside me. The numbness was gone. The rage was coming now. I went straight to the nursery. The one I had spent weeks setting up. The crib? I put it together myself. The onesies? I picked them out, imagining my son wearing them. The rocking chair? Bought it so Naomi could sit comfortably while feeding our baby. But this wasn't our baby, was it? I grabbed the crib first, dragging it right back out of that room. Then the tiny clothes. The diapers. The baby bottles. All of it. One by one, I tossed them into the trunk of my car. Naomi wasn't getting a single thing I paid for. Then I logged into our insurance portal and cancelled her upcoming prenatal appointments. If Elliot was so excited to be a father, he could take care of that now. I wasn't going to be her backup plan. Naomi got home about an hour later. I heard her key in the lock, the door creaking open, followed by her hurried footsteps. She was calling my name, her voice shaky, half desperate, half guilty. I didn't answer. I was in the living room, just sitting there, staring at nothing. I was waiting for her to see what I'd done. Then it happened. A pause. The sound of a light switch flicking on. And then, Xander, what the hell? I leaned back in my chair, listening as she stormed down the hall and into the living room. She looked wild, hair messy, face red from crying. But I didn't care. Where is everything? She demanded. I took my time looking up at her. Gone. She blinked, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Gone where? I shrugged. Not my kid. Not my problem. Her mouth fell open. Are you serious right now? What are you talking about? I laughed. I actually laughed. The sheer audacity of her standing there, playing dumb, after everything, it was almost funny. I pulled out my phone and turned the screen toward her. The Instagram post. Her perfect little announcement with Elliot. Her face drained of color. Xander, Who's Elliot? I cut her off, my voice steady. She swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. "It's not what you think." There it was. The classic cheater line. "Oh, really?" I leaned forward. "Because what I think is that my wife has been parading around with some guy, claiming he's the father of the baby I've been preparing for. So tell me, Naomi, what exactly am I misunderstanding?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Then, more lies. "It's complicated." I let out another laugh, shaking my head. "No. It's really not." Her eyes darted around, as if searching for a way out of this mess. But there was none. Not this time. Then, suddenly, her phone rang. She flinched. And in that moment, I knew exactly who it was. I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Go ahead. Answer it." She didn't move. The phone kept ringing, buzzing in her pocket like a ticking time bomb. And then, just like that, Naomi burst into tears. Naomi stood there, full-on sobbing, her hands shaking as her phone kept buzzing in her pocket. I just sat there, watching. I wasn't going to comfort her. Not after what she did. The ringing stopped. A second later, a notification popped up on her screen. "Elliot." I nodded toward her pocket. "That him?" She sniffled, gripping her phone like she was debating throwing it across the room. "Xander, please. Answer it." My voice was cold. I wanted to see if she had the guts to talk to him in front of me. She hesitated, then finally pulled the phone out. She didn't answer, but she stared at the screen like it held all the answers in the world. Then, as if realizing she had no way out, she turned the phone toward me, showing me the message Elliot had just sent. "Elliot, is he mad? Babe, just calm him down. We knew this would happen. Call me." I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. We knew this would happen. Like it was their problem to deal with. Like I wasn't even a real person in this mess. Naomi saw my reaction and immediately launched into damage control. "Xander, I swear, I was going to tell you. I cut her off." "When? After the baby was born?" I signed the birth certificate. My voice rose, the anger bubbling over now. "Or were you going to let me raise Elliot's kid for a few years first?" She flinched, shaking her head. "No. It's not like that." I scoffed. "Then explain. Tell me exactly how long you've been lying to me." She bit her lip, looking anywhere but at me. It just happened, okay?" I laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. "Oh, it just happened? What, you tripped and fell onto his..." I stopped myself, exhaling through my nose. "No. Don't give me that." Her hands balled into fists. "It wasn't planned, Xander. I didn't mean for it to happen this way." I stood up so fast she took a step back. "This way?" I repeated, incredulous. "So what, Naomi? If you had just told me in private instead of letting me find out through a damn Instagram post, it would have been better." She wiped at her tears, nodding quickly. "Yes. I swear, I never wanted to hurt you like this. I didn't know how to tell you." I shook my head. "So instead, you let me spend months preparing for a kid that's not mine. You let me put together a nursery, pay for doctor's appointments, tell my family. You let me be excited about something that was a lie." She looked down, guilt washing over her face. I was scared. I let out a sharp breath. "You weren't scared, Naomi. You were selfish." Silence filled the room. I could see it now. She wasn't sorry for cheating. She was sorry for getting caught. Then, suddenly, she flipped. 1 second she was guilty and tearful, and the next? She was pissed. Her eyes snapped up to mine, her face twisting in frustration. "You don't understand, Xander. You were never there for me emotionally. I was lonely." "Oh, here we go." I let out a humorless laugh. "Lonely? Naomi, I worked my off so you wouldn't have to lift a damn finger while pregnant. You wanted something, I got it for you. You needed support, I was there. And the second I had to stay late at work a few nights, you ran into another man's arms." Her jaw clenched. "You were distant. You stopped looking at me the way you used to. And Elliot," she stopped, realizing her mistake. I raised an eyebrow. "Go on. Elliot what?" She clamped her mouth shut, but it was too late. I shook my head. That's it, isn't it? Elliot made you feel special. Elliot gave you attention. And that's all it took for you to throw away 6 years of marriage. She swallowed hard, her silence confirming everything I already knew. I let out a breath, my voice dangerously calm. Tell me the truth, Naomi. How long? She hesitated. A few months. I scoffed. Try again. She bit her lip, eyes darting away. Almost a year. A year. I felt something inside me crack. I had been played for an entire year. I stepped back, shaking my head. You're unbelievable. She reached for my arm, but I pulled away. Xander, please. We can work through this. I laughed again, but there was no humor in it. Work through what? You're pregnant with his kid. Her voice broke. But I love you. I snapped. You don't love me. My voice was ice. You love the way I take care of you. You love the security. You love knowing I was always going to be there. I pointed toward the nursery. You sure as hell didn't love me enough to stop screwing Elliot, did you? She sobbed, shaking her head. I made a mistake. No, Naomi. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is breaking a plate. You made a choice. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then, the front door burst open. Naomi's mother. Monica. And judging by the look on her face? She wasn't here to take my side. Monica stormed in like she owned the place, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Her eyes darted from Naomi, still crying, to me, standing stiff with my arms crossed. And just like that, she zeroed in on me. Xander, what the hell is wrong with you? I let out a dry laugh. Of course. She didn't ask what was wrong with Naomi. She didn't demand an explanation for why her daughter had been sneaking around behind my back. Nope. I was the villain here. I leaned against the couch, arms still crossed. You might want to ask your daughter that question. Monica huffed, throwing her purse down on the counter. I already know what's going on, and honestly? I can't believe how childish you're being about this. I blinked. Excuse me. Naomi wiped her eyes and sniffled. Mom, please. But Monica wasn't done. She's pregnant, Xander. This stress isn't good for her. And instead of being a decent husband, you're in here throwing a tantrum, moving furniture out of the nursery like some kind of lunatic. I stared at her, trying to process what she just said. I'm sorry, did you just call me a lunatic? She crossed her arms. Well, what else would you call it? Xander, I know you're hurt, but this isn't just about you. There's a baby involved. A completely innocent child. I clenched my jaw, barely holding back the words I really wanted to say. A baby that isn't mine. Monica rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. Like I was being dramatic. That doesn't mean you just give up on your marriage. You and Naomi built a life together, and sometimes, things happen. People make mistakes. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. Oh, so she just made a mistake? Monica nodded, like this was a normal conversation. Exactly. Marriage is about forgiveness. You took vows, Xander. That means working through things, even when it's hard. I laughed. I actually laughed. Right. And where exactly were these vows when she was sneaking around with Elliot? Naomi flinched but didn't say anything. Monica, on the other hand, was fully committed to her delusion. Look, she said, smoothing her blouse like she was about to drop some wisdom. I get that you're upset. But real men, real husbands, they step up, even when things aren't perfect. Naomi loves you. You love her. There's no reason to throw everything away over one mistake. One mistake. I lost it. One mistake. I took a step forward, my voice sharp. So what, Monica? If I had been sleeping around behind Naomi's back for a year and got another woman pregnant, would you be telling her to work through it with me? She hesitated. Just for a second. But that second was all I needed. I nodded. That's what I thought. She quickly recovered, flipping the argument back. Xander, don't be ridiculous. You're a man. It's different for women. I barked out a laugh. Right. Of course. And let me guess, I should just raise Elliot's kid too. Huh? Be the bigger person. Monica raised an eyebrow, like that was the most obvious thing in the world. Well, yes. That was it. That was the moment I knew there was no saving this conversation. I exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand down my face. Unbelievable. Naomi finally spoke up, her voice quiet. Xander, please. I didn't mean for this to happen. I turned to her, my expression blank. And yet, it did. Her lip trembled. But we can fix this? I shook my head, letting out a humorless chuckle. No. We can't. And then I did what I should have done the second I saw that Instagram post. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Monica scoffed. Where do you think you're going? I didn't even look at her. Anywhere but here. Naomi panicked, rushing toward me. Xander, wait. I stepped out, slamming the door behind me. And for the first time in 6 years, I felt free. I didn't know where I was going at first. I just drove. The streetlights blurred past me, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart was pounding, my mind racing with everything Naomi and Monica had just said. Real men step up. Marriage is about forgiveness. You're being childish. I almost laughed. These people, these two-faced, lying people, really expected me to just roll over and accept this? To pretend like nothing happened? Like I didn't just waste 6 years of my life on a woman who didn't even have the decency to tell me the truth before posting it for the whole world to see? No. Screw that. I pulled into a parking lot outside my favorite bar, the one I used to go to with my friends before Naomi got pregnant and suddenly decided I shouldn't be drinking so much. I parked, cut the engine, and just sat there. My phone was still buzzing in my pocket. Naomi. Again. I ignored it. Instead, I texted the group chat. Me, drinks. Now. The response came quick. Jake, oh, damn. That bad. Ryan, bro, it's a Wednesday. Me, don't care. Bar. 15 minutes. Jake and Ryan didn't ask questions after that. They just showed up. By the time they walked in, I was already 1 drink deep, sitting at the farthest booth, away from the crowd. Jake slid into the seat across from me. Alright, man. What's going on? Ryan sat down next to him, glancing at my empty glass. You look like you just murdered someone. I exhaled. Might as well have. My marriage is dead. Jake's eyebrows shot up. What? Ryan frowned. Wait, what happened? I pulled out my phone, opened the Instagram post, and slid it across the table. They both leaned in, reading. Their eyes went wide. Jake let out a low whistle. Holy. Ryan's jaw clenched. Dude. What the actual? I nodded, swirling the whiskey in my glass. Yeah. That's where I'm at. For a few seconds, no one said anything. Then Jake exhaled sharply, shaking his head. I don't even know what to say, man. That's next level brutal. Ryan scoffed. No. This isn't just brutal. This is calculated. She really thought she could just, what? Make a whole public post and expect you to be cool with it. I leaned back, running a hand down my face. Apparently, Ryan let out a bitter laugh. Man, that is some Olympic-level disrespect. And Monica? Don't even get me started. Step up? Step up to raise another man's kid? Unbelievable. Jake shook his head. So what now? You going home? I snorted. Hell no. Ryan grinned. Good. You staying with one of us? I considered it. I could've. But honestly? I didn't want to be in a house, staring at a ceiling, letting this whole thing sink in. I wanted to drown it out. I lifted my glass. Nope. I'm drinking. Jake exchanged a look with Ryan. Alright, then. And that's exactly what we did. A few hours later. I don't know how many drinks we had. Enough that my head felt light. Enough that I stopped caring. We were laughing at something. Ryan making a joke about Elliot looking like an off-brand Walmart model, when my phone started ringing again. Naomi. I ignored it. A second later, a new name popped up. Monica. Ryan saw it first. Oh, hell no. Jake smirked. Answer it. Put it on speaker. I debated it. For half a second, I actually considered it. But no, I was not giving them the satisfaction. I silenced the call. Ryan raised an eyebrow. You gonna text her back at least? I shook my head. Nope. Jake grinned. I like this version of you. I chuckled. Yeah. Me too. Then the phone rang again. But this time, it wasn't Naomi. It wasn't Monica. It was my mother-in-law's number. And I wasn't ready for what she had to say. The moment I hung up the call with Monica, I was out the door. The night air hit me like a slap, but I barely felt it. My mind was racing, my body moving on autopilot as I got into my car and sped toward County General. I wasn't even sure why I was rushing. A part of me screamed, she did this to herself, let Elliot deal with it. But another part of me? The part that spent 6 years loving her, planning a future with her? That part wouldn't let me ignore this. The drive felt like a blur. My hands were gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Every time I hit a red light, my leg bounced impatiently. Why did this have to happen now? Just hours ago, I was throwing her stuff out of the nursery, making it clear that I was done. Now I was racing toward the hospital because, no matter how much she betrayed me, I couldn't shake the fact that I once loved this woman. I pulled into the parking lot, barely remembering the drive. My tires screeched as I braked, throwing the car into park. I jumped out and rushed inside. The waiting room. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and bad coffee. I spotted Monica immediately, pacing near the waiting area, phone clutched in her hand. When she saw me, she rushed over. Where is she? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Monica wiped her eyes. They took her back. The doctors said she was having sharp pains and collapsed. They're checking on the baby now. I swallowed hard. Is she awake? She nodded. Barely. She's weak. They said her iron levels were dangerously low. Did you know she was missing her appointments? I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my hair. Yeah. I cancelled them. Her eyes widened. You cancelled them? I crossed my arms. Why the hell would I keep paying for them, Monica? She made it clear I wasn't the father. Monica's face twisted with disgust. You don't just abandon a woman when she's pregnant, Xander. No matter what happened between you two. I let out a dry laugh. Oh, so now I'm the bad guy? Your daughter lies, cheats, humiliates me in front of everyone, and I'm supposed to keep taking care of her. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no argument for that. Instead, she shook her head and sat down heavily in one of the waiting room chairs. I don't know what to do. She's been such a mess since you left. I sighed. Yeah, well, actions have consequences. Before Monica could respond, a nurse appeared. Family of Naomi Carter? We both stood. The nurse gave us a tight smile. She's stable, but the doctors want to keep her overnight for observation. Monica clutched her chest. And the baby? The nurse hesitated. It's still early, but right now, everything seems okay. The doctor will explain more soon. I let out a slow breath. At least there was that. Monica turned to me. Are you going to see her? I hesitated. I didn't want to, but I knew if I walked out now, I'd probably never come back. So, against every logical thought in my brain, I nodded. Yeah. And just like that, I found myself walking down the sterile white hallways toward Naomi's hospital room. Face to face. When I stepped inside, she was lying in the hospital bed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Pale. Tired. Not the same woman who had betrayed me so easily. She turned her head toward the door. The moment she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. Xander. I nodded, my expression unreadable. She swallowed hard. You came? I exhaled, leaning against the chair by her bed. Yeah. Your mom called. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I didn't think you would. I didn't respond. She wiped at her face. She stopped, her voice breaking. I know you hate me. I stayed silent. Because honestly, I didn't even know what I felt anymore. Then she whispered, please don't leave me. Her fingers trembled as she reached out toward me. I stared at her hand. And for the first time in 6 years, I wasn't sure if I wanted to take it. Naomi's hand hovered in the air between us, shaking. Her eyes pleaded with me, full of unshed tears. "Please," she whispered. "Don't leave me." For a second, just a second, I hesitated. Not because I still loved her, I didn't. Not because I wanted to fix things, I couldn't. But because this moment felt like the ghost of something that once was. The woman I had planned a future with, the one I had taken care of, the one I would have done anything for, she was right there. But then I remembered. The Instagram post. The deleted appointments. The other man's child. I swallowed hard and stepped back. Naomi's face crumpled. She knew what that meant. "I'm not doing this," I said finally, my voice steady. Her hand dropped to her lap. "Xander." I shook my head. "You made your choice, Naomi. You don't get to cry now." She let out a shaky breath. "I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Yeah? Well, mission failed." Her lip trembled. "I was scared." I scoffed. "Scared of what?" "Telling me the truth." She nodded quickly. I didn't know how. And then, I just kept waiting for the right time, but it never came. I exhaled sharply, crossing my arms. "So instead, you let me plan a future for a baby that was never mine. You let me spend money, build a nursery, tell my family. And then you announce it to the world before even telling me?" Naomi wiped at her face. "I didn't mean for you to find out that way." I clenched my jaw. "But you still let it happen." She swallowed. "I was going to tell you. I swear." I narrowed my eyes. "When?" She didn't answer. I let out a bitter chuckle. "Yeah. That's what I thought." A long silence stretched between us. The hospital machines beeped softly in the background. Then, finally, she spoke. "I never stopped loving you, Xander." I exhaled, looking down. "You don't do what you did to someone you love, Naomi." Her face crumpled. "I know." I shook my head, staring at the floor. "And what's worse? You let me be excited. You let me believe. You could have told me at any point, but you let me look like a fool. You let me think I was going to be a father." Naomi sobbed. "I'm sorry." I looked up, finally meeting her eyes. "I don't care." She flinched. The truth was, I did care. Maybe not in the way I had before. But I cared enough to feel the absolute destruction of what she had done. And I wasn't going to let her trap me in it anymore. Monica's last plea. I left the hospital room without another word. Monica was still waiting in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes red. When she saw my face, she immediately straightened. "Well?" she asked. I shook my head. "It's over." Monica clenched her jaw. "Xander." I held up a hand. Don't give me some lecture about how I should be the bigger person or how real men step up. I'm done." She exhaled sharply. "So that's it? You're just walking away?" I nodded. "Yeah." She let out a bitter laugh. "You know, I thought you were different." I raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" She narrowed her eyes. "A real man wouldn't leave a woman in a time like this." I chuckled darkly. "Funny. A real woman wouldn't cheat on her husband for a year and lie about her baby's father." Monica's mouth snapped shut. I tilted my head. "Face it, Monica. Your daughter did this to herself. And I'm not cleaning up her mess." With that, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. The hospital doors slid shut behind me, and for the first time in 6 years, I felt like I could finally breathe. I wasn't sure where I was going. My car was parked right in front of me, but the thought of going home, to a house filled with memories of Naomi, to an empty nursery that was never meant for me, made my stomach turn. So I just walked. The cold night air bit at my skin, but I barely felt it. My mind was replaying everything. The Instagram post, the way Naomi looked in that hospital bed, Monica's pathetic attempt to guilt-trip me into staying. I shook my head, angry all over again. They had all expected me to just take it. To be the good, reliable husband and stick around, raising another man's kid, because that's what a real man would do. Not anymore. I took out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Naomi's name. For a brief moment, my finger hovered over the call button. A tiny, stupid part of me wanted to hear her voice one last time, to ask her why she did this, to demand answers she'd probably just lie about. But then I remembered who she really was. I took a deep breath and did what I should have done the second I saw that post. I blocked her. Then I did the same to Monica. And Elliot, just in case he ever got any ideas. One by one, I erased every trace of Naomi from my phone. Messages? Gone. Photos? Deleted. Social media? Unfriended, unfollowed, blocked. By the time I was done, it was like she never existed. Packing up the past. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache, not from alcohol, but from everything. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I crashed at Jake's place. He didn't ask questions, just tossed me a blanket and a pillow and let me deal with my thoughts. But by morning, I knew what I had to do. I needed to get Naomi out of my life completely. So I drove back home. The second I stepped inside, the air felt heavy. Like the walls still held every lie she ever told me. The nursery door was still open, the empty room looking more like a crime scene than a place of joy. I didn't even pause. I went straight to our bedroom and grabbed a suitcase. And then? I started packing Naomi's stuff. Everything she owned, everything she left behind. I shoved it all into bags and boxes, tossing them by the front door like garbage waiting to be collected. By noon, I was done. I grabbed my phone and sent a single text to Monica. Naomi's stuff is outside. Pick it up by 5 or it's going to the curb. No response. I didn't care. She'd come. She always did when it came to cleaning up Naomi's messes. One last visit. By 3 p.m., I was standing outside a lawyer's office. I had called that morning and scheduled an appointment. The moment I sat down across from the attorney, I slid my wedding ring onto the table. I want a divorce. The lawyer nodded. You have grounds for infidelity. Should be pretty straightforward. I exhaled. Good. The lawyer flipped through some papers. Any assets you want to dispute? I shook my head. I don't care about the money. I just want out. And that was the truth. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to ruin Naomi's life the way she had ruined mine. I just wanted to be free. The aftermath. Naomi tried to contact me. Not directly, she knew she was blocked. But through mutual friends, through emails, even through a handwritten letter. I didn't read it. Her mother sent a long-winded text about how hard this was for Naomi and how I was being cruel. I didn't respond. And Elliot? Well, he finally showed his face. About a week after I filed for divorce, I got a call from an unknown number. I usually ignore those, but something told me to pick up. The second I did, a familiar voice came through the speaker. Elliot. Hey, man. I just wanted to talk. I almost laughed. Talk? Now he wants to talk? I didn't say anything, so he kept going. Look, I know things got messy, but Naomi's really struggling. She's not doing well, and I hung up. And that was the last time I ever heard from either of them. Moving on. It's been a few months now. Naomi had the baby. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I don't know if Elliot stayed. I don't know if Monica is still trying to control everything. Because I don't care. For the first time in a long time, my life is mine again. And I'll be damned if I ever let anyone take that from me again. Months passed. Life moved on. Or at least, mine did. I didn't keep tabs on Naomi. Didn't check her social media. Didn't ask mutual friends about her. But every now and then, her name still found its way back to me. One afternoon, Jake and I were grabbing drinks when he suddenly cleared his throat. So, you heard about Naomi? I sighed, already regretting this conversation. No. And I don't want to. Jake hesitated. She had the baby. I exhaled sharply, staring down at my drink. Of course she did. He continued, it's a boy. I nodded slowly. Good for them. Jake scoffed. Yeah, about that. Word is, Elliot bailed. My head snapped up. What? Jake nodded, sipping his beer. Apparently, he was all in when it was just fun and games. But when reality hit, when Naomi actually had the kid, he dipped. I let out a low laugh. Typical. Jake smirked. Calm as a bee, he stopped himself. Well, you know. I just shook my head, amused. So let me guess, she tried to reach out to me again? Jake shrugged. Wouldn't be surprised. She probably realizes now that you were the best thing that ever happened to her. I chuckled. Too bad for her, then. Jake raised his glass. To dodging a bullet. I clinked my glass against his. To never being that idiot again. The unexpected visit. 2 weeks later, I came home from work and found something sitting on my doorstep. A box. No name. No note. Just a small, plain box. For a second, I debated leaving it there. But curiosity got the best of me. I picked it up, carried it inside, and set it on the kitchen counter. When I opened it, my breath caught. Inside was my wedding ring. And beneath it, a folded letter. I stared at it for a long moment before finally picking it up. Xander. I don't know if you'll ever read this. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll throw it away the second you see my name. And if you do, I deserve that. But I needed to say this. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. And I ruined it. Elliot is gone. He left a month after the baby was born. He said he wasn't ready and that he thought things would be different. You were right about everything. I was selfish. I took you for granted. I thought you would always be there. And now I realize that the biggest mistake of my life wasn't cheating on you. It was losing you. I know I can't undo what I did. And I know you don't owe me anything. But if there's even the smallest part of you that can forgive me one day, I hope you will. Not for me. But for yourself. Because I hate knowing that I'm the reason you were hurt so badly. I'll never ask you to come back. But I will always regret that I let you go. Naomi. I sat there, staring at the letter for what felt like an hour. Then, without hesitation, I ripped it in half. And I never looked back. The torn pieces of Naomi's letter sat on my counter, but I didn't feel anything. No anger. No sadness. Just relief. This was her final attempt at dragging me back into her mess. Maybe she thought guilt would work. Maybe she hoped that by admitting she had lost everything, I'd come running back, ready to save her like I always had. But she was wrong. I took a deep breath, grabbed the shredded letter, and dumped it straight into the trash. Then, I picked up the wedding ring and stared at it for a long moment. This little piece of metal had meant everything to me once. A promise. A future. A life built together. Now? It was just scrap. Without a second thought, I walked outside, chucked the ring into the storm drain at the end of the driveway, and went back inside. And just like that, Naomi was finally gone. Jake's reaction. That night, I met up with Jake and Ryan at the bar. I wasn't planning on mentioning the letter, but after a few drinks, it slipped out. Jake nearly choked on his beer. Wait. She sent you a freaking letter. Ryan whistled. Man, she's really desperate now. I shrugged. Guess Elliot leaving hit her harder than she thought. Jake scoffed. And she seriously thought you'd take her back after all that? I smirked. She hoped. Ryan laughed. Well, if she's looking for another sucker to raise that kid, she better keep looking. Jake lifted his drink. To dodging not just one, but 2 bullets. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in a long time, I actually felt light. Like a weight had been lifted off my chest. This was real closure. Not the kind Naomi was begging for, but the kind that comes when you finally realize you don't owe anyone a damn thing. The final goodbye. A week passed without any more attempts from Naomi. No calls. No texts. No letters. Then, one evening, I got a message from Monica. Monica, Naomi moved out of town. She's staying with her cousin. I just thought you'd want to know. I stared at the text for a second, then deleted it. I didn't respond. Because it didn't matter. Naomi was out of my life for good. And for the first time in 6 years, I was finally free. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And Naomi? She became nothing but a bad memory. At first, I kept expecting her to pop back up. Another desperate text. another half-hearted apology, another pathetic excuse. But nothing came. She had truly disappeared, and that was fine by me. I focused on myself. On work. On my friends. On just living. And damn, it felt good. No more wondering where Naomi was. No more worrying about whether I was doing enough in my marriage. No more coming home to someone who didn't appreciate me. For the first time in years, my life was mine again. Running into the past. One Saturday, Jake and I hit up a bar downtown, one we hadn't been to in years. It was packed, music thumping, the smell of cheap beer hanging in the air. We were a few drinks in when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned. And there she was. Naomi's best friend, Sophia. The same Sophia who used to gush over how Naomi and I were perfect together. The same Sophia who had liked Naomi's Instagram post about Elliot before I even knew what was happening. I should have ignored her. But the look on her face, the hesitation, the guilt, it told me she had something to say. So I humored her. Sophia. She gave me a small, awkward smile. Hey, Xander. Jake tensed beside me, but I waved him off. Sophia fidgeted with her drink. I heard about everything. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah? And? She sighed. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I let out a short laugh. For what? She shifted uncomfortably. For not telling you. For knowing about Elliot and, she broke off, biting her lip. Look, I should have said something. But Naomi, she told us all these things. Made it seem like you wouldn't understand. That you were distant. I scoffed. Right. Because I was the problem. She sighed again, shaking her head. I don't know what I believed back then. But I know now that she was lying. And I just wanted to say, you deserved better. I studied her for a moment. Maybe she was being sincere. Maybe she was just trying to clear her conscience. Either way, it didn't matter. Yeah, I said, nodding. I did. Then I turned back to my drink. Sophia lingered for a second, like she wanted to say more, but eventually, she got the message. She muttered a quiet take care and walked away. Jake smirked. Well, that was something. I shrugged. Too little, too late. And with that, I let the past fade away. The first date. A month later, something happened that I never expected. I went on a date. Not because I was searching for love. Not because I was desperate to move on. But because I wanted to. Her name was Emma. We met at a coffee shop when she accidentally spilled her drink on my shirt. She laughed. I laughed. And before I knew it, I was asking if she wanted to grab a drink sometime. It wasn't a big, dramatic love story. It was simple. Easy. Real. And for the first time in forever, I wasn't thinking about Naomi. I wasn't thinking about betrayal. I was just living. And damn, it felt good. The date with Emma went well. Really well. She was different from Naomi in every way. Calm, confident, no drama. She didn't play games. She didn't try to make me feel like I had to prove myself. She was just real. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. I didn't feel like I had to bend over backward just to keep someone happy. And damn, it was refreshing. We kept things casual at first. A few dates here and there. Late-night conversations that didn't feel forced. Just two people getting to know each other. No pressure. No lies. But the more time I spent with her, the more I realized something. I had wasted so much time on Naomi. So much energy trying to make something work that was doomed from the start. Naomi had made me believe that love had to be hard. That relationships were about sacrifice. About giving everything even when you weren't getting anything back. But Emma? She showed me that love could be easy. That it didn't have to be built on guilt or obligation. And I wasn't going to let Naomi, or the past, ruin that for me. Naomi's last attempt. It had been almost a year since the Instagram post that shattered my life. I had moved on. I had rebuilt. I was happy. And then, out of nowhere, she tried one last time. It was a random Wednesday night when I got the text. A number I didn't recognize. But I knew. I knew. Unknown. Xander, it's me. Please don't block me. Just read this. I stared at the message, debating whether to delete it. But against my better judgment, I kept reading. Unknown. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. And I don't expect you to respond. But I had to say this. Unknown. I was stupid. I was selfish. And I regret every choice I made. Unknown. The baby is almost a year old now. He's beautiful. He smiles just like you used to. I clenched my jaw. No. She wasn't doing this. She wasn't trying to pull me back in with memories, with some cheap attempt at making me feel something. I kept reading. Unknown. I know you hate me. I hate me too. If I could go back and undo everything, I would. But I can't. Unknown. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What I lost. Who I lost. And I'm sorry. A pause. Then the final message. Unknown. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then, with a calmness I didn't expect, I deleted the entire conversation. And this time, I didn't hesitate to block her. Moving forward. I never told Emma about the message. Not because I was hiding anything, but because it didn't matter. Naomi didn't matter. Not anymore. Emma and I kept going. Building something real. Something honest. And one night, as we sat on my couch, her head resting on my shoulder, laughing at some dumb movie, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't waiting for karma to catch up to Naomi. I just didn't care. Because the best revenge? Was moving on. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I thought Naomi had destroyed me, that I'd never recover from what she did. But here I was, better than ever. I had a new job, a new mindset, and a new woman in my life who actually respected me. But more than that, I had peace. No more questioning myself. No more wondering what I did wrong. No more wasting my time on people who didn't deserve me. One night, Emma and I were sitting on my back porch, watching the sun go down, when she asked me something. Do you ever think about her? I didn't even have to ask who she meant. I took a sip of my drink, thinking for a moment before answering. Not in the way I used to. Emma tilted her head. What do you mean? I set my glass down. I used to think about her with anger. With resentment. Like she had taken something from me that I'd never get back. Emma nodded, waiting. I exhaled. But now? She's just a story. A lesson I had to learn the hard way. Emma smiled, leaning her head against my shoulder. And what did you learn? I smirked. To never ignore the red flags. She laughed, shaking her head. Fair enough. We sat there for a while, just enjoying the quiet. And for the first time in a long time, I realized something. I wasn't just moving on. I had already moved on. The final goodbye. A few weeks later, I heard from a mutual friend that Naomi had left town for good. Apparently, things with Elliot had completely fallen apart. He had tried to come back into her life once their kid was a few months old, but it didn't last. She was struggling. Alone. Living with family. And you know what? I felt nothing. No pity. No anger. No satisfaction. Just nothing. Because Naomi's life was no longer my problem. I was finally free. And this time, I knew it was for good. I never heard from Naomi again after that. No more desperate texts. No more letters. No more guilt trips through mutual friends. She was gone. And for the first time in a long time, so was every last piece of baggage she left behind. I built a new life. Work was going great. I had just landed a promotion, something I never would have been able to focus on if I was still drowning in Naomi's drama. I had a solid group of friends, guys who had stuck by me when everything fell apart. And Emma? Emma was different. She didn't play games. She didn't make me feel like I had to earn her love or fight for her attention. She just chose me. Every single day. And that was something I had never experienced before. One night, as we were sitting in my living room, she looked over at me with this small smile. You seem happy? I glanced at her, raising an eyebrow. Yeah. She nodded. Yeah. Like you finally let go of something heavy. I took a deep breath, letting her words sink in. She was right. I wasn't just healing. I was healed. The past didn't haunt me anymore. The betrayal didn't define me. Naomi? She was just a chapter in a book I had already closed. I reached over, lacing my fingers through Emma's. I guess I did. She smiled, leaning against me. Good. And as I sat there, holding the hand of a woman who actually valued me, in a home that was truly mine, I realized something. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need Naomi to suffer. Because the best revenge? Was living a life she could never be part of. And that's exactly what I was doing.